Hey guys, today is a review of the Canon Legria HF R606. I'm going to show some test footage I've recorded with it and then give my little review at the end of the video. Okay, so firstly I'll say that the onboard microphone is not very good. You may even be able to hear some traffic noise from outside while I'm sitting indoors here. Outdoors, in the wind, the noise is awful. So I've recorded a lot of the voiceover for this video on a USB microphone rather than use the audio from the outdoor shots and just blast your ear with wind noise. Okay, so starting at daytime, it's fairly late in December, also quite late in the afternoon, so even though it's day, it's not actually that light. But as you'd expect from pretty much any camera nowadays, the HD footage comes out nice, clear, crisp colours. It's a fairly accurate representation of what I could see. Okay, so we start this shot at full zoom, which is 32 times optical. And as I zoom out here, you'll notice there's a bar on the left of the picture. And I couldn't see on the small LCD screen that the bar stays in shot at the top left there. So you might want to give yourself a few extra pixels to spare when you're setting up a tight shot like that. Now here the camera's on an automatic setting, and you can see the exposure slowly changes as I pan upwards. You can lock the exposure if you desire to maintain a constant colour throughout your pans and zooms. So as the sun was setting, I thought I'd get some footage to see how the camera copes with low light levels. You can see here I've fiddled about with the exposure a little bit. It's actually on a sunset mode. And I'll bring up here what it looks like on automatic mode. You can see that the automatic mode tries to compensate for the low light levels. It really kind of bumps the exposure up, but it introduces a lot of graininess to the image as well. Some people, I'm sure, would prefer to have a lighter image and deal with the grain in post-production. Personally, I favour the sunset mode, or fiddling with the exposure myself and lowering it a couple of settings. So I'll just have a little pan around. It's quite dark at this point. I'm just seeing if the kind of point light sources will throw off the focus. See how it deals with the contrast. It seems to keep up quite well, to be fair. Certainly looking forward to recording some sunsets. I managed to get this shot of the moon rising behind the clouds, and I thought it was a pretty decent quality. You'll see when I zoom in though, on the right hand side there's a little bit of a red kind of aura around the moon. But then when I zoom out, you have to account for the fact that I'm absolutely surrounded by lights here. So I couldn't be in a place with more light pollution if I tried. So one of the reasons that I got a camcorder is I was really interested in doing some time-lapse footage, and it's extremely easy to do on the Legria. There's a range of speeds from ×2 to ×1200, and I'll show you a couple of examples. camera also has a slow motion feature, which is especially helpful if you're trying to learn something, you want to analyse your patterns, or if you just want to throw a ball in your face. So another thing I like about this camera is it has a decent macro lens on it, and you don't need to activate any special menu or anything to make it work. You just need to get close enough and the camera does its thing automatically. This pound coin is about 22mm. It fills up the screen here, still fairly decent picture on it. I don't know what 22mm is in American, a half a furlong or something. And I'll give one internet point to anyone who can tell me what kind of stone that is. It's not poo, by the way. So I've seen a lot of people online saying that the USB slots in these cameras are broken. And it seemed to be more people than just a few faulty units. It turns out these USB slots aren't broken. What you need to do when you plug a USB in is go into the photo viewing mode. The camera won't automatically connect to your PC if it's in shooting mode. So I think a lot of people just never read the instructions, assumed they had a faulty bit of equipment, sent it back. A perfectly good camera. So one of the things I think could be a little bit better about the camera is that to use some of the other shooting modes, fast motion, slow motion, things like that, you have to back out of your shooting mode, go into a menu, select the bit rate and the format, and it's not immediately obvious which bit rate allows you to do which effects. So you can do time-lapse footage, but you can't do that at 35 megabits per second. You can only do that at 28 megabits per second. If you want to do slow motion footage, you can only do that at 17 megabits per second. But it doesn't tell you that on the menus. You just have to read the manuals or know or go online and find out. And until you get the right bit rate, the option for those speed settings will just be greyed out in the menu. And clicking on that greyed out option doesn't tell you that you need to change the bit rate. It just does nothing. So for those people who don't read instruction manuals, it may take them quite a while to figure out, just by chance, picking the right bit rate or the right format to be able to use all of the effects that they want to use. And the camera can record in AVCHD mode as well, but personally MP4 mode is the thing I'm interested in. You can record at 35 megabits a second in MP4 mode. I believe it's 28 megabits a second in the AV. Also the AV seemed to record in 50 interlaced, whereas the MP4 records in 50 progressive, so that's a winner for me. Now, if left to its own devices, the automatic settings on the camera do perfectly well in daytime. They seem to do a good job of managing the exposure and the focus, even in changing conditions. One thing I would say is when the light level drops, gets towards night time, you're going to want to probably mess with some of the settings yourself. There's a good selection of kind of preset options or shooting modes you can use with different filters on them. Personally, I use the exposure, use the automatic setting. It'll kind of manage the focus of the image and then just reduce the exposure manually a setting or two from there, and that seems to eliminate a lot of the graininess from the image. So the camera has a standard tripod mount, which I'm using at the moment. You can also run the camera with the power lead in with no battery attached at all. So if for some reason you lose or your battery loses its capacity, you still have an option to carry on shooting. The battery that comes with the camera gives, I believe it's 110 minutes on the screen when first plugged in, I did get a third-party battery off Amazon, and that gives me something like 140 minutes, so it's not necessarily the best battery that comes with the camera, but it's just under a couple of hours worth of kind of shooting anyway. So thanks for watching, everyone. If you have any questions about the camera or any of the footage or anything like that, leave a comment in the box down below. I'll put any supporting information in the description box, and take care.